My ex told my kids I chose my career over them. I was deployed. The first thing I noticed when I walked through the door wasn't the smell of home cooking or the sound of my kids rushing to greet me. It was silence. Complete, devastating silence. Lily? Jake? I called out, dropping my duffel bag in the entryway of what used to be our family home. 18 months. 547 days since I'd last stood in this hallway, since I'd last heard their voices in person instead of through crackling video calls that became increasingly rare as my deployment stretched on. There upstairs, came Sarah's voice from the kitchen, flat and cold. No welcome home. No acknowledgement that I just spent the last year and a half in a forward operating base in Syria, missing birthdays and school plays and soccer games. Just those 3 words, delivered like she was commenting on the weather. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heart hammering against my ribs. Lily's door was closed, but I could hear music playing softly inside. I knocked. Lil. It's Dad. I'm home. The music stopped. Footsteps. But the door didn't open. I know you're there, sweetheart. I brought you something from overseas. That bracelet you wanted? The one with. I don't want it. Her voice was muffled through the door, but the words hit me like shrapnel. This was my little girl who used to climb into my lap every night for stories, who cried when I left for training exercises that lasted a week. I tried Jake's room next. He was 12 now, had his birthday 3 months ago. I'd sent a package with a limited edition baseball card he'd been talking about before I deployed, plus a signed ball from a player stationed at our base who'd made it to the majors. Sarah had confirmed it arrived. Jake had never called to say thank you. His door was open, and he was sitting at his desk, back to me, focused on his computer screen. Hey, buddy. I stepped into the room, noting the new posters on the walls, the growth spurt that had left his jeans too short. He'd grown up without me. Man, you got tall. I bet you're beating me at basketball now. He didn't turn around. Didn't even acknowledge I was there. Jake. I moved closer, and that's when I saw what was on his computer screen. Pictures of him and Sarah at some kind of carnival. Her new boyfriend's arm around both of them. They looked like a family. A complete family. I know this is weird, I said, sitting on the edge of his bed. It's been a long time, Anne. Mom said you didn't have to go. Finally, he turned around, and the look in his eyes, my son's eyes, was pure resentment. She said you volunteered for extra time because the money was better. She said you chose that over us. The words hit me like a physical blow. Jake, that's not how deployments work. I couldn't just. Whatever. He turned back to his computer. Tyler's taking us to the game this weekend anyway. Tyler. The boyfriend. The man who'd been playing father to my children while I was serving my country, while I was lying awake at night staring at pictures of them and counting days until I could come home. I stood there for another minute, watching my son ignore me, before I walked back downstairs. Sarah was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, wearing an expression I'd never seen before. We needed to talk. So, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter, trying to keep my voice steady. Tyler seems nice. Sarah's laugh was bitter. Don't start with the jealousy routine, Marcus. You lost the right to have opinions about who's in their lives when you signed up for that extended deployment. Extended? The word came out sharper than I intended. Sarah, you know damn well I didn't volunteer for extra time. My unit got extended twice, that's not a choice, that's orders. I explained this in my emails, my letters. Right. The emails. She opened a drawer and pulled out a thick stack of papers. My letters. The ones I'd written by hand when internet was down for weeks at a time. They were still in their envelopes, still sealed. The kids stopped wanting to read these after the first few months. Hard to compete with someone who's actually here. My stomach dropped. You never gave them my letters. I gave them the first few. But when Jake started crying himself to sleep asking why Daddy didn't love us enough to come home, I made an executive decision. Tyler helped me explain that sometimes parents make choices about what's important to them. The rage that hit me was white hot, but I forced myself to stay calm. I'd learned control in situations where losing it could get people killed. What exactly did you tell them? Sarah shrugged, but I caught something flickering in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. Or defiance. The truth. That you had opportunities to come home earlier but you kept choosing to stay. That the hazard pay was too good to pass up. That's not, Sarah, Jesus Christ, that's not how any of this works. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the official orders that had extended our deployment. Look at this. These are military orders. I couldn't just pack up and leave because I missed bedtime stories. She barely glanced at the screen. The kids don't understand military bureaucracy, Marcus. They understand that Daddy's been gone for a year and a half while Mommy worked double shifts to keep this house running. Double shifts. Sarah, you've been getting my full salary plus combat pay. $3,800 a month, direct deposited, for 18 months. Plus the housing allowance I signed over. I'd kept meticulous records. Had to, when every penny was accounted for in military finance. Where did that money go? Her face flushed red. Do you have any idea what it costs to raise 2 kids alone? Therapy for Jake when he started acting out at school. Lily's anxiety medication when she started having panic attacks because she thought you were dead. Tyler helped with money I earned getting shot at in Syria. Tyler helped, period. He was here. He coached Jake's Little League team. He helped Lily with her science project. He took them to the father-daughter dance when you were too busy playing soldier to come home. Playing soldier. I repeated the word slowly, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Is that what you told them? That this was a game to me? I told them the truth. That you had choices, and you chose to stay away. I thought about Corporal Williams, who'd stepped on an IED 4 months into our deployment. I thought about the villages we'd helped rebuild, the schools we'd protected. I thought about the nights I'd stayed awake writing letters my children would never see, recording bedtime stories on my phone that I planned to send home. Where are the care packages? I asked quietly. What? The care packages I sent. I sent 14 packages in 18 months. Tracked every single one. They all show delivered. Sarah's silence told me everything I needed to know. I walked past her into the garage. If Sarah had kept the packages, they'd be out here. She was too sentimental to throw away things worth money, too vindictive to let the kids have them. Behind a stack of Christmas decorations, I found them. 14 boxes, still sealed. I ripped open the one I'd sent for Jake's birthday, the signed baseball, a jersey from his favorite player, a photo album I'd made of military vehicles because he'd always been obsessed with tanks. In the next box, Lily's bracelet, the one she'd begged me for in our last video call before communications went dark. Art supplies. A necklace I bought from a local vendor who told me it would protect his daughter. They're not your kids anymore. Sarah's voice behind me was cold, but there was something desperate underneath. You want to know the truth? Jake told his teacher that his dad abandoned them. Lily hasn't mentioned you in months. Tyler's been more of a father to them than you ever were. I turned around slowly, holding Jake's birthday package. How long have you been planning this? Planning what? The alienation. Cutting me out. How long have you been with Tyler? Her face went pale. That's not, we didn't start anything until. Until when, Sarah? I pulled out my phone, started scrolling through our message history. Because I've got texts from you dated 4 months into my deployment. Kids are adjusting well to the new normal. Maybe this separation is good for everyone. They're learning they don't need you as much as they thought. She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Did you block my video calls? The kids didn't want to talk to you. They were upset every time. Did you block my calls? I kept my voice level, but something in my tone made her step back. A few times. When it was inconvenient, or when they were busy with Tyler. 37 missed calls, Sarah. I documented every single one. I scrolled to my call log, showed her the screenshots I'd sent to my commanding officer when I thought there might be an emergency at home. July 14th through August 21st. You blocked me for over a month. They were at summer camp. No, they weren't. I called the camp. They were never registered. I'd called from a satellite phone during a convoy stop, worried sick that something had happened. Jake posted on his Instagram that whole week. Pool parties at your house. Tyler teaching him to grill. Sarah's composure cracked. You were spying on them. I was trying to stay connected to my children. Jake's Instagram was public, Sarah. There are 43 posts from my deployment. Guess how many mention me? She didn't answer. 0. But Tyler's in 31 of them. I scrolled through the screenshots I'd saved, each one like a knife twist. Here's Tyler at Jake's baseball game. Tyler and Lily at the science fair. Tyler carving pumpkins with them on Halloween. The Halloween where Jake's wearing the costume I sent, but you cropped me out of the thank you photo you posted. They were happy, she said defensively. For the first time in months, they were happy. Tyler didn't disappoint them every week with canceled calls and broken promises. I never canceled a call. I canceled when mortars were hitting our base, Sarah. When I was in a convoy that couldn't stop. When our communications were down for 6 days because insurgents hit our equipment. The kids don't understand the difference between can't and won't. Because you never explained it to them. I opened another package, found the letters I'd written for each missed call, explaining exactly why I couldn't talk, when I try again. You made sure they didn't understand. The garage fell silent except for the sound of my hands shaking as I held my daughter's unopened birthday present. There's something else, Sarah said quietly, and the tone in her voice made my blood run cold. Something you need to know before you go upstairs again. I set down Lily's package, giving her my full attention. After everything I just discovered, I couldn't imagine what could be worse. Tyler proposed last month. The words hit me like a sniper's bullet, sudden, devastating, changing everything in an instant. What? We're getting married in October. I already filed the paperwork to change the kids' last names. Jake said he wants Tyler to adopt him. You can't, Sarah, you can't just erase me. I'm their biological father. I have rights. She pulled out her phone, swiped to a recording. Listen to this. Jake's voice filled the garage, older than I remembered, cracking slightly with adolescence. I don't want his name anymore, Mom. Tyler's the one who's here. Tyler's the one who cares about us. If Dad wanted to be my dad, he would have come home. I staggered backward, hitting the garage wall. When was this recorded? Last week. When the adoption papers came. She paused the recording. There's more. From Lily too. Don't. I held up my hand. Just, don't. But she played it anyway. My little girl's voice, the one that used to sing me songs over video calls. Mommy, why is he coming back now? I don't remember him very much. Will Tyler still be my dad too? The phone fell silent. Sarah was watching my face, and I realized this wasn't accidental cruelty. This was strategic. She was showing me how completely she'd won. The custody agreement says alternating weekends, I said, my voice barely steady. You can't just. The custody agreement was written before an 18-month abandonment. Before the kids chose their stepfather over their biological father. Sarah's voice was calm, matter of fact. My lawyer says with documented emotional distress and the children's clearly stated preferences, we can petition for supervised visitation only. Supervised visitation. I repeated the words like they were in a foreign language. 2 hours, twice a month. With a court-appointed supervisor present. I thought about the custody papers in my duffel bag upstairs, the ones I carried through 2 combat zones. The ones that guaranteed me equal time with my children, that I'd used to keep myself sane during the worst nights overseas. Just pieces of paper now. I kept records too, Marcus. Sarah pulled out a tablet, swiped through what looked like a detailed log. June 8th, Marcus missed scheduled call, kids waited 2 hours. June 15th, promised to call during Jake's game, never called. July 4th, Told kids he'd try to call during barbecue, left them waiting by the phone. Those were the mortar attacks. August 3rd, promised Lily he'd help with her book report over video call. Never called. Our base was under siege for 3 days. September 22nd, Jake's championship game. Promised he'd find a way to call after. Radio silence for 6 days. I pulled out my own phone, scrolled frantically to my deployment journal. September 22nd, we lost 2 vehicles to an IED. I was carrying wounded to the evac helicopter. I couldn't exactly ask the medics to wait while I called home. The children don't know that. They know their father promised to call and didn't. Because you never told them why. Because why doesn't matter to a 10-year-old who thinks daddy forgot his game. Sarah's voice rose for the first time. Because daddy's in danger just made them more anxious. Tyler never put them through that. Tyler showed up. I scrolled through more entries, finding notation after notation of missed calls that weren't my choice, broken promises that weren't really promises but desperate attempts to maintain connection across a war zone. The court date is October 15th, Sarah said quietly. Tyler and I get married the 18th. The kids want him to walk Lily down the aisle at her future wedding. They want him to teach Jake to drive. Those are my moments. Those are father moments. Tyler earned them. You chose a war over your children. I chose to serve my country. It's my job, Sarah. It's how I provide for them. Tyler provides for them now. Tyler's name is on the emergency contact forms at school. Tyler knows their teachers, their friends, their fears. She paused. Tyler knows that Jake's been having nightmares about you dying overseas, and Lily thinks it's her fault you left. The garage spun around me. What? She thinks she wasn't good enough to make you stay. She thinks she wasn't good enough to make you stay. The words echoed in my head like the ringing after an explosion. I slumped against the garage wall, still clutching Lily's unopened birthday present. Sarah, that's not, how could she think that? Because she's 9 years old and her father disappeared for 18 months. Sarah's voice was softer now, but somehow that made it worse. She asked me last Christmas if you would come back if she was prettier, or smarter, or if she stopped being scared of thunderstorms. I closed my eyes, remembering the video call where Lily had shown me a drawing she'd made, a stick figure family with daddy far away across an ocean. I thought it was sweet. I hadn't realized it was a cry for help. The night terror started in month 4, Sarah continued. Jake would wake up screaming that you were dead and it was his fault because he'd been mean to you before you left. He wasn't mean to me. But even as I said it, I remembered our last argument, Jake angry that I was missing his birthday party, telling me he wished I had a normal job like Tyler's dad. That was just kid stuff. He was upset. He's carried that guilt for over a year. Tyler's the one who sat with him through the panic attacks. Tyler's the one who convinced him that sometimes people leave and it's not your fault. I opened my eyes, stared at the stack of unopened care packages. But I sent explanations. Letters telling them how proud I was, how much I missed them. Letters they never saw because Tyler said it was healthier to let them move forward instead of living in the past. Tyler said. The rage was building again, but underneath it was something worse, the growing realization of how completely I'd been erased. Tyler's been making decisions about my children. Sarah's jaw tightened. Tyler's been acting like their father while you were gone. He earned the right to have opinions. I stood up, began pacing the small space between my car and the workbench. When exactly did Tyler become such an expert on child psychology? What does he do for work, anyway? He's a pediatric nurse practitioner. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. He's a what? Children's hospital. He specializes in trauma counseling for kids whose parents are deployed. Sarah's words came out in a rush, like she'd been waiting to deliver this particular blow. He knows exactly what military families go through. He said keeping false hope alive with letters and calls from an absent parent often does more harm than good. I stopped pacing. You're telling me a children's therapist has been systematically cutting my kids off from me as treatment. He was helping them process abandonment. I didn't abandon them. The words exploded out of me, louder than I'd intended. I was deployed. There's a difference. Not to them. Sarah pulled up something else on her tablet. Tyler documented everything. Sleep disturbances, anxiety episodes, behavioral changes. Look at this chart, see how their symptoms improved once we limited contact with you. The chart showed a clear pattern, fewer nightmares, better school performance, improved social interaction, all correlating with reduced communication from me. It looked professional, clinical, damning. This is insane. I grabbed my phone, started scrolling through contacts. I'm calling my lawyer. Marcus. Sarah's voice stopped me. Before you do that, you should know, the kids don't want to see you. You just told me they think it's their fault I left. Of course they don't want to see me. They're scared and confused because you've been lying to them for 18 months. I asked them this morning if they wanted to visit with you this weekend. Before any of this conversation. She pulled up another recording. Jake said no. Lily said she'd rather go to Tyler's parents' house. This morning. Sarah, I just walked through the door 3 hours ago. I wanted to be prepared. I stared at her, this woman I'd lived with for 8 years, married for 6, had 2 children with. I was looking at a stranger. How long have you been planning this? I asked again, but this time I already knew the answer. Tyler and I started talking when Jake's anxiety got bad. He was helping professionally at first. When was that? She hesitated. Month 2 of your deployment. You've been with him for 16 months. We've been together for 8 months. We were just consulting before that. Consulting. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You've been building a case against me since I'd barely been gone 60 days. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my deployment records, cross-referencing dates. Month 2. That's when my calls started getting missed more often. That's when Jake stopped asking about my return date in his emails. Marcus, you're being paranoid. May 15th. I held up my phone. Jake's Little League sign-up. I called to ask about his team placement, remember? You said he wasn't interested in baseball anymore. But there's Tyler in his Instagram, coaching Jake's team 3 weeks later. Sarah's face went pale. The timing isn't. May 28th. Lily's school play auditions. I wanted to help her practice her lines over video chat. You said she decided not to try out. I scrolled to another screenshot. But she got the lead role. Tyler's in the front row of the performance, holding flowers. Tyler was just supporting. June 2nd. Father's Day. I arranged a special call through the chaplain's satellite phone. Cost me 2 weeks of phone privileges with my unit. You said both kids were sick. I turned my phone screen toward her. Tyler posted a photo that day. Best Father's Day ever with my favorite kids. Jake's wearing the baseball jersey I sent for his birthday, the one you told me was too small. Sarah grabbed for my phone again, but I held it out of reach. The evidence was all there, documented in social media posts and carefully saved screenshots I'd taken during lonely nights overseas. You want to know what month 3 looked like from my end? I opened my notes app, where I tracked every communication attempt. July 8th, called during scheduled time, sent straight to voicemail. Kids' phones disconnected. July 9th, tried again, Sarah's phone answered, hung up when I said hello. July 10th through 15th, every call blocked. The kids were at camp. Tyler's Facebook check-in at Six Flags, July 11th. All 4 of you. I scrolled to the photo I'd stared at for hours, trying to understand why my family was at an amusement park when they were supposed to be unreachable at summer camp. Lily's wearing the Disney shirt I sent her. She looks happy. Happier than I'd seen her in our last video call. You're twisting everything. August 4th. Jake's birthday. I sent that care package 2 months early to make sure it arrived in time. Tracking show delivered August 2nd. I called on his actual birthday, got voicemail. Left a message singing happy birthday. I pulled up the call log. 3 minutes and 47 seconds of me singing to a voicemail box while my son was probably opening presents from another man. Sarah was quiet now, watching me scroll through months of documented rejection. August 18th. Lily started 4th grade. I'd been planning to call and hear about her first day since before I deployed. You texted me that she was too tired to talk. Another screenshot. Tyler's post, first day of 4th grade. So proud of my smart girl. My daughter. He called her his. Marcus, stop. September 3rd. Hurricane warning in our area. I called 12 times in 6 hours because I couldn't reach anyone and I was terrified something had happened to them. I scrolled to a frantic series of call attempts. Turned out you'd evacuated to Tyler's parents' house in Richmond. His parents met my kids before I got to see them again. Sarah sat down heavily on an overturned crate. You don't understand what it was like here. October 31st. Halloween. I specifically requested leave for a video call to see their costumes. Arranged it 3 weeks in advance with my commanding officer. The screenshots showed Tyler helping Jake carve pumpkins, Tyler adjusting Lily's costume, Tyler taking them trick-or-treating down streets I used to walk with them. I called at exactly 1800 hours our time, like we planned. Rang once and went to voicemail. We were already out. You were building a new family. I closed my phone and looked directly at her. You've been erasing me since month 2, and you documented every step to make it look like I was the one pulling away. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the sound of kids playing in a neighbor's yard. Normal kids, with fathers who came home every night. The court's going to see all of this, I said quietly. Every blocked call, every intercepted package, every lie you told them about why Daddy didn't call. Sarah stood up, something hardening in her expression. Tyler's been recording conversations too, Marcus. Every time the kids broke down after your missed calls. Every nightmare, every anxiety attack. Every time they asked why you didn't love them enough to come home. She pulled up a video on her tablet. Jake, younger looking, sobbing into Tyler's shoulder, he promised he'd call after my game. He always promises and then he doesn't. I don't want to wait anymore. That was the day our convoy hit 3 IEDs, I whispered. Tyler has hours of footage like this. Professional documentation of parental abandonment and the therapeutic interventions he provided. Sarah's voice was steady now, clinical. What do you have? Screenshots and conspiracy theories. I pulled out a folder from my duffel bag, the one I'd kept with me through every movement, every firefight, every sleepless night in a foreign desert. What do I have? I have official military deployment orders. Medical evacuation records for the days I couldn't call. Combat action reports that prove exactly where I was during every missed call. Sarah's confidence flickered. She hadn't expected documentation. June 15th. You said I broke my promise to call during Jake's game. I flipped through pages of official paperwork. Here's the incident report. Roadside bomb killed Sergeant Martinez at 14:30 hours. I was performing CPR on Private Chin for 47 minutes while we waited for medevac. I pulled out a photograph, my blood-stained uniform from that day. This is what choosing work over family looked like, Sarah. I was holding a 19-year-old kid's intestines inside his body while my son waited for a phone call. Her face went ashen, but I wasn't finished. August 21st. The day you told them I was too busy to call for over a month. Another document. Chemical attack on Forward Operating Base Redemption. 12 soldiers hospitalized, including me. 3 days in intensive care, 2 weeks recovering from lung damage. I showed her the medical records, the 4 marks still visible on my arms in the hospital photos. Tyler told you this was therapeutic for the kids. To think their father was ignoring them while he was unconscious in a military hospital. Sarah grabbed the papers, scanning them frantically. You never told me you were hurt. You never said. Every notification went to my emergency contact. You. I pulled up email records on my phone. 17 official communications from the Department of Defense regarding my medical status, my unit movements, combat operations that affected communication schedules. All sent to the email address you gave me. I never got these. Check your spam folder. The words came out cold, final. They're all there. Marked as read. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, navigating to her email. I watched her face change as she scrolled through months of official notifications she'd ignored. Or worse, had seen and chosen to keep from the kids anyway. October 2nd through 8th. The week Jake said I abandoned him during his championship season. I opened to another report. Rescue operation for a village that lost 37 children to a suicide bombing. I was pulling dead kids out of a school, Sarah. Kids the same age as ours. Stop. Her voice was barely a whisper. October 9th. While I was still carrying body bags, Tyler posted a photo of him teaching Jake to throw a curveball. Some promises are worth keeping, he wrote. Our son sees that post, sees that Tyler's there while Dad isn't, and draws his own conclusions. I spread the documents across my car's hood like evidence at a crime scene. You want to know what this deployment really cost me? Corporal Williams, 22, stepped on an IED trying to deliver school supplies we collected. Lieutenant Garcia, 24, took shrapnel to the throat during a convoy that was carrying medical aid to refugees. Sarah was staring at the casualty reports, the photographs of young soldiers who'd never make it home to their families. Private Rodriguez, 19, died in my arms calling for his mother while I tried to stop the bleeding from his femoral artery. You know what his last words were? Tell my kids I love them. But he didn't have kids yet. He was delirious from blood loss, but he was worried about children that didn't exist because he knew that's what fathers are supposed to do. Marcus, I didn't know. Tyler knew. I pulled out printed copies of my military emails, the ones I'd sent to Sarah's address explaining each delay, each missed call, each broken promise. Every single communication I sent home included my commanding officer's contact information for emergencies. Tyler could have called Captain Morrison any time to verify my status. The truth was sinking in now. Sarah's face had gone completely white. A pediatric trauma specialist who works with military families, and he never once reached out to confirm whether I was actually choosing deployment over family, or if there were circumstances beyond my control. I began stacking the papers back into neat piles. That's not therapy, Sarah. That's sabotage. I pulled out the last folder from my duffel bag, the one I'd hoped I'd never need to open. You want to see what professional documentation looks like? Tyler isn't the only one who knows how to build a case. Inside were printed transcripts of every video call I'd managed to complete, every email exchange, every text message thread. But more importantly, there were witness statements from other military families who'd been copied on group communications. Staff Sergeant Jennifer Walsh, I read aloud. Deployed with my unit, mother of 2. She was on 17 of the same video calls I attempted with you. Her kids talked to her every Tuesday and Friday for the entire deployment. I handed Sarah the statement. She documented every time my calls were blocked while hers went through on the same network. Sarah's hands shook as she read Jennifer's account. Marcus was visibly distraught during our Tuesday morning briefings. He'd mentioned failed connection attempts with his children while the rest of us had spoken with our families the night before using identical equipment. Captain Rodriguez's wife, I continued, pulling out another document. She runs a support group for deployment spouses. Guess whose name never appeared on any communication logs after month 3? Marcus, stop. Mrs. Patterson from down the street. I held up a handwritten statement. The neighbor who watched you block my calls. The one who saw you screen my number and hand the phone to Tyler when the kids asked if it was me calling. Sarah grabbed for the papers, but I held them back. She documented dates, Sarah. July 22nd, saw Sarah look at her phone, say Marcus was calling, then tell Jake that Daddy was busy and couldn't talk. Tyler took the children for ice cream 5 minutes later. July 29th, Lily was playing in the front yard when Marcus's name appeared on Sarah's phone. Sarah declined the call and told Lily that Daddy would call later if he really wanted to talk to her. He never got the chance to call back because she blocked his number immediately after. Mrs. Patterson was spying on us. Mrs. Patterson was worried about my kids. She has her own statement here about the night Jake had a panic attack in your front yard because he thought I was dead. I found the right page. August 15th, 2200 hours. Jake ran outside crying, asking why God took his daddy away. Tyler told him that sometimes people choose to stay away because coming home is too hard. Sarah sank onto a storage box, the weight of the evidence crushing her story piece by piece. I also have phone records from my unit's family liaison officer, I said, softening my voice slightly. Captain Morrison called this house 14 times trying to arrange emergency communication when I was hospitalized. 14 calls, Sarah. You answered twice. Both times you hung up when he identified himself as my commanding officer. I thought it was about notification. You thought I was dead and you hung up on the people who could tell you otherwise. I pulled out the final document, the one that had taken me 3 months of paperwork to obtain. This is the complete communication log from my deployment. Every call attempted, every technical failure, every blocked connection. Military communications track everything, Sarah. Every single thing. The log showed 127 attempted calls over 18 months. 43 had technical failures on the military side, power outages, equipment damage, security blackouts. 31 went through successfully in the first 4 months. The remaining 53 were blocked on the receiving end. 53 times you could have let me talk to my children, and you chose not to. Sarah stared at the numbers, seeing her defense crumble into dust. Tyler said it was better for them. Tyler said a lot of things. But I've got his professional license number, and I've already filed a complaint with the Virginia Board of Health Professions. I closed the folder carefully. Turns out using your position as a healthcare provider to alienate children from their deployed parent violates about 14 different ethical standards. Her head snapped up. You reported Tyler. I reported a licensed clinician who used his credentials to justify parental alienation. The review board takes that seriously, especially when it involves military families. I hefted my duffel bag, preparing to head back inside. He'll have a hearing in 6 weeks. You can't do that to Tyler, Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. He was trying to help. Help who? I set my bag down again, not ready to walk away from this conversation. Because it sure as hell wasn't my kids. The review board will see that he was protecting them from. From what? From their father who was serving overseas. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a saved email. I've been in contact with 3 other military families Tyler consulted with during deployments. Want to guess how those situations played out? Sarah's face went pale again. You contacted his other patients? I contacted other military spouses through the base family support network. Turns out Tyler has a pattern. I found the email thread I was looking for. Master Sergeant Collins, deployed to Afghanistan. His wife started bringing their daughter to Tyler for adjustment therapy, month 2 of deployment. By month 6, she'd filed for divorce and sole custody. I scrolled to the next message. Staff Sergeant Williams, different Williams, not the one who died, deployed to Kuwait. Tyler treated his twin boys for abandonment anxiety. Williams came home to find his wife engaged to her therapist and his kids calling another man dad. That's not, Tyler wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Date his patients' wives. Because I've got documentation of him taking you to dinner 3 weeks before your first official date. I showed her the photo from Tyler's social media, him and Sarah at Romano's, the Italian place we used to go for anniversaries. Jake posted a story that night asking why mom was on a date while dad was at war. 17 people saw that story, Sarah. She grabbed my phone, staring at the photo she'd apparently forgotten existed. It wasn't a date. It was a consultation dinner. A consultation dinner. At the restaurant where we got engaged. I took my phone back. Tyler's wearing a suit. You're wearing the blue dress you bought for our last anniversary. Lily's babysitting Instagram shows her asking when daddy would take mommy on dates again. Sarah stood up abruptly, pacing to the other side of the garage. You're making this sound like some kind of conspiracy. I'm making it sound like what it is. A licensed therapist who targets military wives, gains access to their children, then systematically destroys the deployment parents' relationship with those kids. I pulled up another document on my phone. The Virginia Board of Health Professions is very interested in Tyler's success rate with military families. 0 deployments resulted in stronger family bonds. 0. Maybe that's because deployment is traumatic. Maybe it's because Tyler has never recommended family counseling, increased communication, or any therapeutic intervention designed to maintain parental bonds. I read from the email I'd received from the board investigator. Standard practice for military family therapy includes regular contact facilitation, age-appropriate explanation of deployment necessity, and maintenance of parental authority structures. Tyler documented the opposite approach in every case. Sarah stopped pacing. How do you know what he documented? Because the other families filed complaints too. Master Sergeant Collins requested Tyler's treatment notes during his custody battle. I scrolled to an attachment. You want to know what Tyler wrote about you and the kids? I don't. Session notes, June 23rd, Sarah demonstrates appropriate protective instincts toward children. Recommend limiting contact with absent father to prevent further emotional disruption. I looked up at her. June 23rd was 2 days after Jake's anxiety attack. The one that happened because I missed a call due to a base lockdown. Sarah sank back onto the storage box. He said it was standard procedure. Session notes, July 15th, children show marked improvement with stable father figure present. Biological father's inconsistent contact pattern causing ongoing trauma. Recommend communication cessation until deployment completion. I kept reading. July 15th. That was the day after the convoy attack where I couldn't reach satellite communications for 36 hours. Marcus, stop. Session notes, August 30th, Sarah ready to establish permanent family structure with appropriate father figure. Children bonding well with replacement parent. Recommend legal consultation regarding custody modification. I looked directly at her. August 30th. 3 days after I was released from the military hospital. Tyler was planning your custody strategy while I was still recovering from a chemical weapons attack. The garage fell completely silent. Sarah was staring at her hands, and I could see tears starting to form. The other wives didn't know, I said more gently. They trusted him because he was a professional. Because he specialized in military families. Because he seemed to understand what they were going through. He did understand, she whispered. He knew exactly how hard it was. He knew exactly how to exploit it. I sat down across from her. Sarah, Tyler's not a predator in the traditional sense. He's something worse. He's a professional who weaponized his training to break up military families during their most vulnerable time. She looked up at me, mascara smudged, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. What happens now? What happens now? Sarah's question hung in the air between us like smoke from an explosion. I stood up, gathering the documents I'd spread across my car hood. Now I file for emergency custody modification. I've got a hearing scheduled for Monday morning. Monday. That's in 4 days. Emergency hearings move fast when you can prove parental alienation and document systematic manipulation by a licensed professional. I tucked the papers back into their folder. Judge Morrison, different Morrison than my CO, specializes in military family cases. She's seen Tyler's work before. Sarah's face went ashen. You already talked to a judge about this? I talked to 3 family law attorneys before I even landed stateside. Military Legal Assistance Office connected me with specialists in parental alienation cases. I pulled out another business card from my wallet. Jennifer Martinez, Family Law. She's handled 17 cases involving Tyler's therapeutic interventions with military families. 17. Tyler's been doing this for 3 years, Sarah. Every 6 to 8 months, a new deployment family. Always the same pattern. I showed her the timeline Martinez had compiled. First contact around month 2 when anxiety peaks. Relationship with spouse begins around month 4. Custody filing around month 12. Marriage within 6 months of the service member's return. Sarah grabbed the timeline, scanning the dates. These are just coincidences. Staff Sergeant Williams' wife filed for divorce on March 15, 2019. Tyler proposed to her on November 22, 2019. I pointed to the highlighted dates. Corporal Jensen's wife filed on August 3, 2020. Tyler's engagement to her was February 14, 2021. He was engaged to someone else. Multiple someone else's. The engagement to Jensen's wife lasted 8 months. Ended when Master Sergeant Collins' wife started therapy. I flipped to the next page. Tyler's been engaged 4 times in 3 years. Always to military wives. Always after their husbands deployed. Sarah stared at the pattern of relationships, the methodical progression from therapist to boyfriend to fiancé. But he loves me. He loves Jake and Lily. Tyler loves the idea of an instant family that comes with a house, 2 kids, and a grieving woman who thinks her husband abandoned her. I sat back down, keeping my voice level. Sarah, you're not special to him. You're a type. She dropped the timeline like it had burned her. That's not true. We have a real relationship. You have a professional relationship he manipulated into dependence. I pulled up Tyler's license verification on my phone. Did you know he's not actually board certified in military family therapy? That specialty requires additional training he never completed. But he said a lot of things. His actual certification is in pediatric primary care. Basic medical treatment for kids. No psychological training, no therapy credentials, no specialization in trauma counseling. I showed her the official licensing board website. He's been practicing therapy without proper certification for 3 years. Sarah was shaking now, whether from anger or shock I couldn't tell. The hospital wouldn't let him. The hospital hired him as a nurse practitioner for basic pediatric care. Strep throat, broken arms, routine checkups. I scrolled to Tyler's employment history. He started the military family consulting as a side practice. Cash only, no insurance billing, no official supervision. But the other families, the documentation. All illegal practice of psychology without a license. Which is a felony in Virginia. I put my phone away. Tyler's looking at criminal charges, not just professional discipline. The garage door creaked in the wind, and we both looked toward the house where my children were somewhere inside, probably unaware that their world was about to change again. What about Jake and Lily? Sarah asked quietly. What about the adoption papers, the name changes? All invalidated by fraud. Tyler can't legally adopt children while he's under investigation for manipulating their family structure through unlicensed practice. I stood up again. But that's not what I'm worried about right now. Then what? I looked directly at her, seeing the woman I'd once planned to grow old with. I'm worried about explaining to my kids why everyone they trusted spent 18 months lying to them. I walked back into the house, leaving Sarah in the garage with the wreckage of her carefully constructed narrative. The living room felt different now, foreign. Pictures of Tyler with my kids lined the mantelpiece where my deployment photos used to sit. My Marine Corps service portraits had been replaced with Tyler's arm around Jake at some baseball game I'd never heard about. Dad? I turned to find Lily standing at the bottom of the stairs, clutching a stuffed elephant I didn't recognize. She looked so much older than 9, her face serious in a way that broke my heart. Hey, sweetheart. I knelt down to her level, fighting every instinct to scoop her into my arms. How are you doing? She studied my face like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Mom's crying in the garage. I know. We had some grown-up things to talk about. About Tyler? Her voice was smaller than I remembered. Jake said you might try to make Tyler go away. The words hit me like a physical blow. Jake said that? He said military dads sometimes get mad when other dads are better at taking care of kids. She shifted the elephant to her other arm. Tyler told us you might be angry when you got back. Tyler had prepared them for this moment. Of course he had. Lily, can I ask you something? I sat down completely, making myself less intimidating. Do you remember when I used to call you from overseas? She nodded slowly. Sometimes. But you were always busy. Do you remember what Mom told you about why I couldn't talk? Her face scrunched up in concentration. She said you had important work stuff. Tyler said sometimes work is more important to some people than their families. And what do you think about that? I think. She hesitated, glancing toward the garage door. I think maybe you forgot about us a little bit. But Tyler says that's okay because now we have a better family. A better family. I closed my eyes for a second, steadying myself. Lily, do you still have that art box I sent you? The one with all the colored pencils. What art box? The one for your birthday. With the special paper and the pencils that came from Germany. I pulled out my phone, showed her the delivery confirmation photo. It had your name on it in big letters. She shook her head. I never got an art box. Tyler got me art stuff for my birthday. Really good stuff from the craft store. Of course he did. With my money, no doubt. What about the necklace? The one that was supposed to protect you from bad dreams? I don't know about any necklace. But something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Tyler got me a different necklace. One that's supposed to keep away sadness. Can you show me? She pulled a thin silver chain from under her shirt. It was pretty, delicate, exactly the kind of thing a 9-year-old would love. But it wasn't the hand-carved pendant I bought from an elderly Syrian woman who told me it would keep my daughter safe. It's very pretty, I said honestly. Tyler has good taste. She smiled for the first time since I'd been home. He says I'm his special girl. The phrase made my stomach clench, but I kept my expression neutral. Do you like having Tyler around? Yeah. He makes really good pancakes. And he never misses my school stuff because of work emergencies. That's good. That's really good that he's been there for you. The words felt like glass in my throat, but they were true. Lily, can I tell you something about my work emergencies? She nodded, settling cross-legged on the floor across from me. Sometimes when I couldn't call, it was because I was helping other kids. Kids who lived where there was fighting, and they needed help staying safe. Her eyes widened slightly. Like superhero stuff? A little bit like that. But not as fun as superheroes make it look. I pulled up a photo on my phone, one of the schools we'd helped rebuild, full of children about her age. These kids didn't have safe places to learn, so my friends and I helped build them new schools. Oh. She studied the photo carefully. Were you helping them when you missed my birthday call? My heart stopped. You remember that? I waited by the phone for 2 hours. Mom said you probably forgot because soldier work was really important. Her voice got smaller. Tyler said maybe you were just too tired to remember about me. I pulled up my calendar app, scrolled back to her birthday. Then I showed her the incident report from that day, sanitized, nothing graphic, just the basic facts. That day, a bad person hurt the school we just finished building. Some of the kids got scared and lost, and we spent all day finding them and making sure they were safe. I pointed to the timestamp. See? From 2 in the morning until 8 at night, we were looking for missing children. She read the official report slowly, her finger following each line. You were saving kids. We were helping them get back to their families. But. She looked confused. Mom said you chose work over calling me. Sometimes the work chooses you, sweetheart. Sometimes you can't stop helping people just because you want to make a phone call. I closed the app gently. But that doesn't mean I didn't want to call you. I wanted to hear about your birthday more than anything in the world. Tears started forming in her eyes. I thought you didn't care about my birthday anymore. Oh, baby. I couldn't help myself, I reached out and touched her hand. I cared so much that I carried your birthday in my pocket every single day. I pulled out my wallet, showed her the photo of her I'd kept through the entire deployment. It was worn smooth from handling, creased from being folded and unfolded hundreds of times. You carried my picture. Every day. And Jake's picture too. Right here, next to my heart. I showed her how the photos sat in the pocket closest to my chest. When things got really scary, I'd look at these pictures and remember what I was fighting to come home to. She stared at the worn photographs, seeing physical proof of something Tyler's words had tried to erase. Daddy. The word slipped out unconsciously, and her eyes widened like she'd said something wrong. Yeah. I missed you. Even when Tyler said it was better not to miss people who were far away. I missed you too, sweetheart. Every single day. I squeezed her small hand gently. Tyler was wrong about that. It's okay to miss people you love, even when they're far away. But he said missing people makes you sad, and being sad makes you sick. Before I could respond, Jake appeared at the top of the stairs. Lily, Tyler said not to talk to him alone. Tyler's not here, I said, standing up slowly. And Lily can talk to whoever she wants. Jake came down the stairs with the wary posture of someone much older than 12. Tyler said you might try to turn us against him with lies about deployment. What kind of lies? Like saying you had to stay away. Tyler showed us the military website. It says deployments are voluntary after 12 months. Jake's voice carried the rehearsed quality of someone repeating an adult's words. You chose to extend for extra money. I pulled out my phone, navigating to my official service record. Jake, can you read this document number to me? He glanced at the screen reluctantly. Amendment to Deployment Orders, Service Extension Non-Voluntary, Authorization Code, a bunch of numbers. What does non-voluntary mean? It means. He paused, the certainty leaving his voice. It means you didn't choose. It means the Army chose for me. My unit was extended twice because the situation overseas required our specific expertise. I scrolled to the official explanation. Explosive ordnance disposal specialists, people who disarm bombs, were critically needed. We couldn't leave until replacement teams arrived. Jake stared at the screen, his confidence wavering. But Tyler said. Tyler said a lot of things. But Tyler never served in the military, did he? I sat back down, making myself less threatening. Has Tyler ever shown you actual military documents, or just websites that anyone can access? Jake faltered. He showed us a website that talked about deployment pay. Hazard pay is real, I agreed. But Jake, I need you to think about something. If I was only deployed for money, why would I have signed over my entire salary to your mom? Why wouldn't I keep the extra pay for myself? You signed over your salary. Lily looked between us, confused. What's salary mean? It means Daddy gave us all his work money, Jake said slowly, understanding dawning in his voice. All of it. I pulled up the direct deposit records on my banking app. Every penny. Base pay, hazard pay, family separation allowance, $3,800 a month for 18 months. Plus I kept paying the mortgage, car payments, your school lunch accounts. I showed them the transaction history. If I was deployed for money, this doesn't make much sense, does it? Jake scrolled through months of transfers, his expression growing more confused. Where did you get money for food and stuff? Military provides meals and housing on base. I lived on about $50 a month for personal expenses. I pointed to the small cash withdrawals. Mostly for phone cards to call you. Phone cards? Lily asked. International calls are expensive. Sometimes the base phones were broken, so I had to use calling cards that cost $20 for 30 minutes. I showed them the purchase receipts I'd saved. I bought 47 calling cards over 18 months. That's almost $1,000 just trying to reach you. Jake was quiet now, studying the financial records. Tyler said you kept all the money for yourself. Tyler was wrong about that too. I closed the banking app. Jake, can I ask you something? When you had nightmares about me being hurt, did Tyler ever suggest calling the military to check if I was okay? He said that would just make us more worried. But your mom had my commanding officer's direct number. Captain Morrison would have told you immediately if something happened to me. I pulled up Morrison's contact information. Military families have resources, Jake. Gold Star families, families who lose someone, get immediate notification and support. Tyler should have known that. Gold Star families. Lily's voice was small. Families whose loved ones died serving the country. They get help with everything, money, counseling, new housing if they need it. I kept my voice gentle. If something had happened to me, you would have known within hours, not wondered for days. Jake was processing this information, his loyalty to Tyler clearly warring with the evidence in front of him. But Tyler helped when you didn't call. He was there when we were scared. And I'm grateful for that, I said, meaning it. I'm glad you had someone who cared about you when I couldn't be here. But Jake, being helpful doesn't give someone the right to lie about why help was needed. What do you mean? Tyler helped you through anxiety and sadness, which was good. But he also told you that anxiety was my fault for choosing to stay away, which wasn't true. I leaned forward slightly. Real help would have been explaining why I couldn't call and helping you understand deployment. Fake help was making you believe your father didn't love you enough to come home. Lily looked up from playing with her elephant. Tyler said you might not love us the same when you got back because you've been away so long. The casual cruelty of that statement took my breath away. Lily, look at me. Do you think love has an expiration date? She shook her head uncertainly. Do you love Grandma any less when she visits Florida for 3 months? No. Do you love your friend Emma less during summer break when you don't see her? No, but that's different. How is it different? Because. She struggled with the concept. Because they come back the same. And I'm not the same. She studied my face carefully, looking for changes. You look sadder. And skinnier. And you have new scars. I glanced down at my hands, where shrapnel had left permanent marks. I am different, sweetheart. Deployment changes people. But love isn't something that breaks because someone looks different or feels sad. Tyler said deployed parents sometimes can't love their kids normally anymore, Jake said quietly. He said it's called trauma. Trauma is real, I acknowledged. Some veterans do struggle when they come home. But trauma doesn't erase love, Jake. It just makes love harder to express sometimes. Before I could explain more about trauma and deployment, Sarah walked back into the house. Her face was red and blotchy from crying, and she was carrying her phone. Kids, go upstairs for a few minutes, she said, her voice hoarse. Your father and I need to finish talking. But Mom, Jake started. Now, Jake. Take Lily with you. They reluctantly headed upstairs, Lily clutching her elephant and Jake shooting worried looks back at us. Once their bedroom doors closed, Sarah turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before, part devastation, part fury. I called Tyler, she said. And? He didn't answer. So I called the hospital. Her hands were shaking as she held up her phone. He called in sick today. Said he needed to handle a family emergency. What kind of family emergency? That's what I asked his supervisor. Sarah's voice was getting higher, more strained. Turns out Tyler requested 3 personal days starting yesterday. Before you even landed. Before I told him you were coming home. The pieces clicked into place in my mind. He knew I was being discharged. How could he know that? I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the family notification emails I'd shown her earlier. Because all spouse notifications go to your email address. Including my discharge orders and travel itinerary. I found the message dated 4 days ago. Department of Defense notification, service member Marcus Thompson, scheduled return stateside, arrival date confirmed. Sarah stared at the email timestamp. He had access to my email. For how long? I gave him my password months ago. For coordinating the kids' medical appointments. She sat down heavily on the couch. He said it would be easier if he could check their school communications directly. So Tyler's known for 4 days that I was coming home, and he conveniently disappeared right before my arrival. I sat across from her. Sarah, that's not a coincidence. That's strategy. She was scrolling frantically through her phone now. His location sharing is turned off. He's not answering texts. His apartment management company says he gave 30-day notice last week. 30 days. He's moving. The lease terminates October 31st. Sarah's face went pale. 2 weeks after our wedding date. Let me guess, he was planning to move in here permanently. He said it made sense financially. Selling his place, combining households. She trailed off as the implications sank in. Marcus, what if you're right about everything? Before I could answer, her phone buzzed with a text message. Sarah's face went white as she read it. What is it? She turned the phone toward me. The message was from Tyler, emergency came up. Need to think about our relationship. We'll contact you in a few days. Don't try to reach me. Kiss the kids goodbye for me. Kiss the kids goodbye. I read the message again. Sarah, he's running. No, he needs space to process. He's been planning his exit strategy since he found out I was coming home. I stood up, pacing to the window. Think about it. 3 personal days from work, apartment lease termination, disappearing the day I return. Tyler never intended to face me. Sarah was staring at her phone like it contained a message in a foreign language. But the wedding. The adoption papers. He said he wanted to build a life with us. He wanted to build a life with the money I sent home and the family I couldn't defend while I was overseas. I turned back to her. Sarah, Tyler's not just a predator. He's a coward. The minute he realized he might have to face consequences for what he's done, he ran. I need to call him. No. I moved to sit beside her. Sarah, listen to me. Tyler's pattern with other military families, how do you think those relationships ended? I don't know. You said he'd been engaged before. Master Sergeant Collins came home early on emergency leave when his wife filed for divorce. Tyler disappeared for 6 weeks, then broke up with her via text message. I pulled up the email thread from Collins's wife. Staff Sergeant Williams returned from Kuwait to find his wife and Tyler had moved to North Carolina without telling him. No forwarding address. He wouldn't just abandon us. Corporal Jensen's wife. Tyler proposed, moved in, then vanished when Jensen hired a private investigator to look into his background. I showed her the timeline. Jensen found out Tyler had been engaged to 3 other military wives simultaneously. Sarah grabbed my phone, reading the documented pattern of Tyler's relationships. 3 other wives. At the same time. Tyler targets multiple families per deployment cycle. Whoever's most vulnerable, most isolated, most likely to provide the lifestyle he wants, that's who he focuses on when the deployed parent returns. I scrolled to the investigator's report. He's never stayed to face a returning service member. Ever. But he loves Jake and Lily. Sarah, he sent you a text saying, "Kiss the kids goodbye for me." Does that sound like a man who loves them? She read Tyler's message again, and I watched the last of her illusions crumble. He's not coming back. No, he's not. The house fell silent except for the sound of our children moving around upstairs, probably wondering why their world kept shifting beneath their feet. I looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and saw a woman who'd been manipulated as thoroughly as our kids had been. What do we tell them? She asked quietly. We tell them the truth. Age appropriately, but the truth. I pulled the care packages I'd found in the garage closer to us. And we start rebuilding what Tyler tried to destroy. Sarah nodded slowly, then broke down completely, 18 months of deception and manipulation finally catching up with her. While Sarah cried on the couch, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Jake appeared first, followed by Lily, both of them drawn by their mother's sobs. What's wrong with Mom? Lily asked, clutching her elephant tighter. I looked at these 2 kids, my kids, who'd spent 18 months being fed lies about their father, and made a decision that would change everything. Come sit down, both of you. We need to have a family meeting. Jake hesitated. Tyler says family meetings are for when someone's in trouble. Nobody's in trouble. But we do need to talk about Tyler. I waited until they were both seated. Tyler had to leave town unexpectedly. He's not going to be able to come back for a while. What do you mean? Jake's voice cracked slightly. He's supposed to take me to practice tomorrow. Sarah looked up through her tears. Jake, Tyler sent a message. He said he had to go handle some grown-up problems. He might not be back before the wedding. Before the wedding? Lily's eyes went wide. But he's supposed to be my new daddy. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my voice steady. Lily, Tyler isn't going to be your new daddy. I'm your daddy. I always have been, even when I was far away. But Tyler said a lot of things that weren't true. I pulled out my phone, showing them the care packages I'd found. Remember when I told you about the art box I sent, Lily? It's been in the garage for 6 months. Tyler and Mom decided not to give it to you. Jake looked at his mother accusingly. You hid presents from us. Tyler thought it would be confusing, Sarah said weakly. He said getting packages from someone who wasn't here would make you more upset. But I wanted to know Dad was thinking about us, Jake said, and I heard something breaking in his voice. I kept asking if he remembered my birthday, and you said he was too busy to send anything. I opened the first package, revealing the baseball memorabilia I'd carefully selected months ago. Jake's face lit up despite his confusion. This is from the All-Star game, he whispered, holding the signed baseball. This is worth like $200. I bought it from Sergeant Martinez before he... I stopped myself. Before he went home early. He played AAA ball before he enlisted. Sergeant Martinez who taught you Spanish. Jake remembered our video calls better than I'd thought. The same one. He said any kid who could remember batting averages like you do deserved a real baseball. I handed him the jersey. This one's from the team photographer. It's authentic. Lily was staring at her still-wrapped packages. Can I open mine? They're yours, sweetheart. They always were. She tore into the art supplies with the enthusiasm I'd imagined 6 months ago. The colored pencils, the sketch pad, the tiny easel that folded into its own carrying case. This is so much better than the stuff from the craft store, she breathed. Mom, look at these colors. But Sarah wasn't looking at the presents. She was staring at her phone, reading something that made her face go even paler. Marcus, she said quietly. I just got an email from our bank. The joint account Tyler had access to, he withdrew $8,000 this morning. The room went completely silent. $8,000. I kept my voice level, but inside I was calculating. That's more than 2 months of my deployment pay. It was supposed to be for the wedding, Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. The venue deposit, the caterer, Lily's dress. Jake looked between us. Tyler stole our money. Tyler took money that wasn't his to take, I confirmed. Money I sent home for your school clothes, your sports equipment, your college funds. Lily stopped playing with her art supplies. College funds. Every month I was deployed, I put $500 into accounts for you and Jake. For when you're older. I pulled up the banking app, showed them the automated transfers. 18 months, $500 each. That's $18,000 total. We have $18,000 for college. Jake's voice was odd. You had $18,000. Plus whatever interest it earned. I scrolled to the account balances, and my heart sank. Sarah, the college accounts are empty too. What? She grabbed my phone. That's impossible. Tyler didn't have access to those. Check your email. Look for password reset notifications. Sarah scrolled frantically through her messages. Oh my God. Marcus, there are dozens of them. Password resets, account access changes, all approved from my email address. When? Starting 3 weeks ago. Right after. She stopped, understanding flooding her face. Right after I told him you'd gotten your discharge date. Jake was old enough to understand what this meant. Tyler stole our college money because Dad was coming home. It looks that way, buddy. But why? Lily asked. If he loved us, why would he take our money? I knelt down in front of her, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes people pretend to love someone because they want something from them. Tyler wanted a ready-made family and financial security. When he realized he couldn't have those things anymore, he took what he could and left. Like a thief. Exactly like a thief, sweetheart. Sarah was still staring at her phone in horror. Marcus, he's been planning this for weeks. The apartment lease, the work absences, the bank transfers. He knew exactly when you were coming home, and he set up his escape plan. The question now, I said, standing up and putting my arms around both kids, is what we're going to do about it. 3 months later, I stood in Judge Morrison's courtroom holding a folder that contained everything: Tyler's fraudulent therapy records, the stolen money trail, documented parental alienation, and his complete disappearance. But the most important evidence sat in the gallery behind me, Jake and Lily, who'd asked to come to the final hearing. Your Honor, my attorney Jennifer Martinez said, Tyler Brennan has been arrested in Florida attempting to board a cruise ship with identification belonging to another military spouse he'd been manipulating simultaneously. The FBI recovered $23,000 in cash, forged documents, and detailed records of his systematic targeting of military families. Judge Morrison reviewed the arrest warrant. Mr. Thompson, I've seen many custody cases involving parental alienation, but this level of calculated manipulation is unprecedented. The court finds that you were systematically denied contact with your children through criminal fraud perpetrated by a licensed medical professional. Sarah sat in the front row, no longer the woman who'd chosen Tyler over truth. She'd spent the last 3 months in actual therapy, real therapy, learning how Tyler had exploited her fears and isolation. Your Honor, I want to make a statement. Proceed, Mrs. Thompson. I believe Tyler because he was a professional who seemed to understand what military families go through. I now realize he understood because he'd been studying how to destroy them. Sarah's voice was steady. My children lost 18 months with their father because I trusted someone who weaponized my loneliness against my family. I'm asking the court to grant Marcus primary custody while I continue working to repair the damage I allowed to happen. Judge Morrison turned to Jake and Lily. I understand you two have something you'd like to tell the court. Jake stood up, wearing his dress uniform from ROTC, a program he'd joined after learning about my actual service record. Your Honor, we wrote Tyler a letter. We wanted him to know how we felt about what he did. Lily joined her brother, holding a piece of paper covered in her careful handwriting. Tyler told us our dad didn't love us enough to come home. But Dad carried our pictures through a war. Tyler said Dad chose money over family, but Dad gave us all his money. Tyler said it was better not to miss people who were far away, but Dad missed us every single day. And? Judge Morrison prompted gently. We want our real dad, Jake said simply. The one who sends birthday presents and remembers our favorite colors and builds schools for kids in scary places. Tyler was just pretending to be a dad because real dads were too hard to be. Judge Morrison smiled, the first time I'd seen her expression soften. Mr. Thompson, the court awards you primary physical custody of your children, effective immediately. Mrs. Thompson, you'll have supervised visitation for 6 months, followed by a gradual transition to joint custody pending your continued therapy progress. After court, we went to Romano's, the restaurant where Sarah had once had her consultation dinner with Tyler. But this time, it was a real family dinner. Dad, Lily said, carefully drawing on her paper placemat with the art supplies I'd originally sent her, Tyler's letter came back yesterday. Oh. It said, addressee unknown. That means even the post office doesn't know where he is, Jake explained. But we don't need him to read it to know what we wanted to say. Which was? Thank you, they said in unison. I looked confused. Thank you. For what? Jake grinned. For teaching us the difference between someone who shows up and someone who stays. Someone who helps and someone who hurts. Someone who loves you and someone who just loves the idea of you. Tyler chose easy, Lily added, not looking up from her drawing. You chose us. Outside the restaurant, Sarah stopped me before we got in our separate cars. Marcus, I know I can't undo what I allowed to happen. But I need you to know, Tyler didn't just manipulate the kids. He manipulated me too. That doesn't excuse what I did, but I thought I was protecting them from more disappointment. I know, I said quietly. Jennifer's seen this pattern dozens of times. Tyler was a professional predator who knew exactly which emotional buttons to push. The kids are going to be okay, aren't they? I looked at Jake and Lily, who were in my car comparing their favorite parts of the court hearing, completely absorbed in being together. Sarah, our kids spent 18 months thinking their father didn't love them enough to come home. But they also learned they're strong enough to survive that kind of pain. I opened my car door. Tyler tried to erase me from their lives. Instead, he taught them how much they actually need their real family. Even me, she asked quietly. Especially you. You're their mother, Sarah. You made a mistake trusting someone who was professionally trained to be trustworthy. But when you learned the truth, you chose them over him. That's what real parents do. 3 weeks later, Jake hit his first home run of the season. I was there in the stands, wearing his team colors, cheering loud enough to embarrass him properly. Lily performed in her school's art showcase, displaying a painting titled, My Dad the Hero, a portrait of a soldier carrying children's pictures through a desert. That night, as I tucked them into their beds in our house, the one Sarah had signed over to me as part of making amends, Lily asked the question I'd been waiting for. Dad, do you think Tyler ever really loved us? I think Tyler loved the idea of having a family, I said honestly. But real love means staying even when it's hard. Real love means telling the truth even when it hurts. Real love means choosing the other person's good over your own comfort. Like how you stayed deployed to help those kids even though you missed us. Exactly like that, sweetheart. Jake appeared in the doorway. Dad? Mom's here for dinner tomorrow, right? Right. She's bringing dessert. Good. I think she's learning how to be a real mom again. He paused. Tyler said deployed parents sometimes can't love their kids normally when they come back. But I think maybe he was wrong about that too. I smiled, remembering all of Tyler's lies that had crumbled in the face of truth. What do you think, buddy? I think deployed parents love their kids more, not less. Because they know what it feels like to almost lose them. Later that night, I sat in my home office, looking at a photo Tyler had never seen, one taken the day I returned. Jake and Lily on either side of me, all of us holding the care packages that had finally reached their intended recipients. My ex had told my kids I chose my career over them. She'd been manipulated into believing it by a man who'd weaponized her fears against our family. But in the end, my children learned something Tyler hadn't counted on: real love survives deployment, distance, and even deliberate deception. And real fathers never stop fighting to come home.